you can't just, throw money at, marginal play.
Right.
We want to be a championship team. We don't want to be an average team,
Heard the open right there. It is time for the John Schneider Show with the one, the only John Schneider, president of football operations and general manager of your Seattle Seahawks. How are you, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Great. Nice.
We were wondering, would there be a surprise guest, or is it just going to be
I was kind of hoping Adam Ray would be on. I got in the car yesterday to run an errand, and I'm like, I know that voice.
Yeah, you heard him going
It's
stream.
funnier than
Dave,
Dave,
stream of consciousness.
Bob.
Yeah, I hope so. He's making a living doing it.
He's killing it right now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing very well.
That's awesome.
He's doing very well. Yeah, he got a kick that we mentioned him last time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was texting
Okay.
me, where in the podcast is it? I'm like, I don't know. Listen to the whole thing. You'll find it.
That's
right
awesome.
There. It's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Let's go through what happened since we last spoke. Cooper Kupp is now a member of the Seattle Seahawks, which I don't know. Again, you're not on social media, so the mood around the offseason was a little, all right, well, what are they doing? They haven't done anything with the line. There's a little hand.
I never know what they're doing back there.
They never know what they're doing back there. Mom, meatloaf. But then as soon as that signing happened, the mood changed. Everybody's like, oh, Cooper Kupp, amazing. And everybody loves a hometown guy. But take us through the process with that and how quickly you guys jumped on that, or was that a conversation that was taking place for a while?
Yeah, so it's funny because, Mike was on the show with us, and we had just made our first offer and stuff, kind of getting into it with Cooper when we were down here on that show.
And you
didn't share it. Weird.
Us.
I forgot to bring it up, but yeah, no, he great relationship with the agents, real clear communication. There's mutual interest, DK going to Pittsburgh, Tyler, having to be a cap casualty transaction, and then having a guy like that's a natural leader, be great for Jax, and then other people that MVS, other guys that Bobo and Derek, and then other guys that we'll probably add to the group as well. Everybody just raves about his work ethic. I have a close friend that trains down where he's training, and just the work ethic's just off the chart. The person, the leader. I don't know if you guys caught the press conference, but just pretty down to earth. Right? Everything.
When we talked to him, we were here.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah,
good.
He sat in with us.
Oh, good.
He came in here, and one of the things he said was he talked about just getting everybody in the receiver room to buy in, and and I thought that was interesting, just because, look, wide receivers are kind of the divas, right? And for good reason, because they're relying on everybody else to do things so they can have success. And Bob asked me yesterday, like, who's the leader on offense? I'm like, I think it's Cooper Kupp. Right now, you want Darnold to grow into that, but just his leadership.
Yeah, that'll happen organically. Once they're together and they start spending time.
But just the way he put that, I thought was incredible.
Yeah, and look what he did. With the Rams. He ran. I think he ran like 4.58 coming out, and we didn't have him in a spot that was. It was close, but it was strong enough where they took him, and he would have been a great guy to draft, obviously, but. Yeah, no, he's been. It was great. Get him in here and have his family in here and the three boys and have him like interacting with everybody. It was awesome to hear him talk about how he felt, supported and at home right away. And I know he's from the state and everything, but just coming in the building and his wife spending time with Connie and Cooper interacting with Dave and his staff all day, and
he's still
Mo
elected to come here.
What's that? He's right here.
But number one.
Yeah, but it was an awesome reflection on those. I always talk about those pillar people in our organization and that have been here forever, like Sam and EK and Mo and Dave and So that interaction was just awesome to see and have him turn it on right away and recognize it, and then talk about how Ernest, what Ernest had thought about the organization when he came in, and it was just a really fun, fresh. Here we go moment.
Something Dave and I always talk about as it pertains to how you guys conduct your business with players that and you've said it when you go to the combine, that the most important thing is the medicals. You want to see where these guys are, and you guys put a lot into that. And when the Will Fries thing presumably didn't happen because you couldn't You couldn't get.
Not mentioning names, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, so that was around medicals that you couldn't have access to. But this is a player who's obviously part of his story has been his injury history.
Absolutely.
So how do you go about that? You talk to their team doctors?
Flew him in here. We flew him in here, and he went through a battery of examinations and imaging and all kinds of stuff in the morning, and then when he cleared, we signed him. He signed his contract. So, getting back to your point though, with Fries, is that what happens in free agency is that and especially in the last 5 years, it moves so fast. It provides like this, that first 3 days, it provides a lot of opportunity for risk and error because you're not able to. We've had several guys here through the week, right, on visits. They can sit down with the coaches. We can have our doctors, evaluate them, see where they are in their career, what their durability grade would be, what a final medical exam would be, how they're interacting with the coaches, how they're treating the staff, like how are they treating, Stu in the cafeteria and, EK and his guys down there. Like just those interactions are really important. And when we had a number, our really, two of our coolest free agency signings were a little bit later on that visit type of thing. So when guys had their markets had fallen off a little bit, like with Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, you're able to really spend time with them, and you're like, okay, sound investment, here we go. Everybody's all in. We're all in this thing together, and it's kind of a little less shooting from the hip, and that's you can make errors right there, and that it's like it's almost like being on the clock when you're just on draft day when you're just drafting for a need no matter what.
As it pertains to Cooper, do you look at it and say, all right, maybe not going to get 17 games out of him? Do you have a number in mind? Like if we can get 13, 14 out of him, that's a win? Or do you go with a different expectation?
Yeah, no, because we feel good about our group with, Sam and Ivan and those guys and everybody being able to, and David being able to help manage his workload, understand what that looks like, and where he is physically. He had a great physical, Tyler, we did a great job with Tyler. Tyler ran all the time and worked his tail off. But it was like, okay, how do we make sure he's right? And everybody had a great relationship, and great communication with Tyler. So it's basically how can you help these guys because those guys run a ton. You guys know. You guys have been out there at practice. These guys they're busting their tails out there. They're the ones that are like the DBs and the DBs and the receivers are just like. Their GPS numbers are off the charts.
Well, so the whole injury thing, I guess everybody, we think of you being kind of a stickler about that, and for good reason, right? So where did that come from? Because it seems like that's the one thing you can control. You can't control if the guy's going to get better. You don't know, all kinds of things, but you can, as far as the doctor report go. This is the number one thing, and and we have our high standards here. And do you think your standards are a little bit higher than other teams, or
I think
where'd that come from?
Yeah, so in 2010, we drafted Russell Okung, with our first pick, and he hadn't missed a game in his whole career. And up to that point, we always just had a medical grade. Okay, this is what the orthopedic grade is basically, right? Here's the grade, and everybody would go, we would go off that. We were one of 3 teams at the time then that said, okay, what a durability score look like? How can a guy, how can we, measure a guy and test him to figure out okay, what's the deal? Does he have tight ankles? Does he have, laxity in his knees or what? What are the tests that we can do to try to figure out if a guy is going to miss time and what would be a durability score? And it was at that point that we moved Sam Ramsden to, be head of sports science and player health, basically. Okay, we need to be focusing on, building our sports science group and, testing and GPS and any information we could possibly get and combine that with the orthopedic grade. Because, Rashad Penny was the same way. His medical grade said it was the best medical grade we ever had.
Yeah.
And then, he came in and, unfortunately he had several injuries he had to work through.
Yeah.
Since you're not on social media, you probably don't see the hand wringing that goes on over the O-line and what's going on in terms of free agency.
Yeah. Dave keeps me well informed. Yeah,
does he tell you?
Yeah. Not Dave Wyman.
Yeah, he's not on
and
there.
Not Joey Lane. That was pretty funny last week.
You and
Joey Lane.
high-fiving?
Really, Joey Lane called in? That was funny.
I just liked how happy you and Coach were. You guys high five each other.
No, that was fun.
Mike was very proud of that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, but as names come off the board, names that people are just now getting familiar with, because here's the best free agent guard available. Here's the next best. And as those slowly go off the board, people are going, well, according to the analysts.
Yeah, because not every team grades all these guys the same.
Yeah.
I mean, as you see, like, every different analyst can grade them differently. So based on scheme fit and all that. But
so is it more about these? We don't see them the way these analysts do, or we believe we talked about it a bit last week. But it's more about the belief you have in the guys that are currently here, or the
combination.
The draft is loaded.
It's really a combination. The draft is strong. It feels like a really nice group, and then we like the guys we drafted last year, the younger guys that we have in that room, and our coaches. We're excited to come here and work with those guys as well. Saw an upside in them. And then also, we're at a point in free agency now where guys are we're in phase 2 really quick. And so you're figuring out, guys are trying to figure out what their market value is. And, some of the agents have promised a guy that they'll make at least, call it $8 million a year or whatever, $5 million a year. And the market's not telling them that. So now we're at a point where it's like, okay, guys go and visit places. And, we had, like I said, several guys in here this week. We had probably 5 guys in this week. We'll have another guy in this weekend. And then, have the docs spend time with them and keep negotiating with the agent and, have the coaches spending a bunch of time with them and seeing if it's a true fit. It's not, it's not at a point where it's like, I understand and like how fans and what Dave tells me, like I understand like the empathy, like I have empathy for that. Like I see it too, but you can't make, chicken salad, you can't just.
I don't know the rest of that. Yeah. How does that go?
Yeah. You try to get me in trouble, right? No, but you can't just, throw money at, marginal play.
Right.
I mean, we want to be a championship team. We don't want to be an average team, and so, we can sign guys that can fill a specific role, but it's not at a point right now where you're going to go sign a guy that's for sure going to be your starting left guard or right guard. So it's just the guy that's like just what it is.
Right.
I wish I could tell you different.
Mm-hmm. So last time you talked about when you were in here with Mike about some of the young guys that you like. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us like who I know Jalen Sundell is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Sundell. Olu,
Christian Haynes.
Olu played great. There was he had a really nice. He got hurt, but when he got hurt, Jalen came in and played really well for him. Mm-hmm. Coaches are very confident in Jalen last year. Tawa, Christian Haynes. Anthony. We got to get Anthony healthy, playing at a consistent. Yeah, Anthony Bradford playing at a consistent level. And when that guy goes, and when he's healthy, and when he's right, that guy is like a monster. He moves people. Yeah. He can get to the second level and bury people. He's got a little Dave Weidel in him, if you will. Is that right? Dave Weidel?
Gosh. Yeah. Dave Weidel.
Yeah. I can go back with you. We could do this all day, buddy. Let's go. Yeah. No, he's got some nastiness to him, and that's what we want to be. And we want guys that can run off the ball and get to the second level because we're going to be doing a lot of that, right?
Yeah. Do you feel like you individually have strengths in evaluating this position over this position? Like, I just got a better feel for linebackers over O-linemen or defensive tackles over quarterbacks, or is it all the same? It feels like just in looking at the history, and I'll tell you why I asked.
Okay.
Is Dave and I were talking about just looking at drafts and looking at different guys, and the history of O-linemen that you've signed as second contracts is a pretty short list.
Mm-hmm.
So do you look at that as all right, these guys at the end of the rookie contract just didn't turn out the way we want. They didn't develop the way they want. We missed, or is it they wanted more money than we were going to give them? Or it seems like that's the one area that hasn't had the success of the other positions.
To answer your first question, no, I don't. I did early on when you start. So in whatever 92 or 93. I only knew running backs.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I had to learn, I had to spend a lot of time with experts in different areas. So, even O-line, you're constantly trying to figure out the different types of players at the position. So, when Howard Mudd was living here, I'd meet with Howard Mudd, and we'd go over stuff, and he'd help me out because those guys played with super light guys, even with having Peyton Manning, but the ball was coming out so quick. I never understood it. Wanted to learn what that system was like. So you're constantly trying to learn and evolve, from an evaluation standpoint, but it's interesting because, you know, we've I think since 2010, and this is like somebody put this on my desk, we've drafted like the most offensive linemen, or the like top 3. And then on the flip side, to your point, like I think the money spent on our offensive linemen that we've let out of here is top 3 in the National Football League. And so the guys that have moved on and gotten, you know, received other contracts. So there is a narrative that, well, they can't evaluate offensive linemen, but the rest of the league sees it different because they're signing our guys. So yes, we have missed on some guys, no question. You know, there's also a level of we haven't developed guys either, like, because they've gone on and played pretty well at other places. I mean, shoot, Kupp was playing until like last year or 2 years ago, I think. You know, Jermaine Ifedi was playing just last year. So it's like it's saying, okay, identifying the guys that, like, maybe the guys are a little bit better, you know, than we're giving them credit for here in our organization, and maybe we need to do a better job of saying, hey, no, this guy is not, maybe we should, like, we shouldn't let this guy go because he could go be a solid starter somewhere else. So yeah, that's a very fair question. And offensive line as a whole, it's because the talent level is so different than all the other positions. It's a hard position to evaluate. I mean, that's why we have. I mean, shoot, we got Hutch helping us. You know, we got, you know, Jason Peters working. You know what I mean? We've had a lot of like offensive line guru guys. You know, Matt Berry played center. You know, I mean, we have a lot of guys that we focus on, and it's like the one position we spend the most amount of time on.
Yeah, I think it's the one position that gets complained about the most, but it's the one that people don't really know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you're throwing the heck out of the ball, it's pretty hard to gain confidence when you're not running off the ball.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to a young group of guys last year, quite frankly, right? Like, we were throwing the crud out of it, we didn't really establish a running game. You gain confidence when you come off the ball and you can, you know, block your guy.
Yeah.
Instead of being on your heels all the time, and
I
mean, you're going to lose that battle. What is that? That's from a movie. I mean, you're going to lose that battle. What is it? Oh, it's the other guys.
Oh,
yeah, Will Ferrell. Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, he's like, wait, a lion in the ocean? Tuna? You're going to lose that battle every day of the week.
I don't know if Dave's seen that one.
Okay, it's really good. Yeah, I don't know why that popped in my brain, but
nobody does.
All right, so what else? What other offensive linemen you guys want to talk about?
Well, how about this? How about coaching? And how much, like, if you were good to go, okay, here's what I need. I need talented guys, obviously, and I need tough guys. What, like, percentage of the pie is your offensive scheme, and how much that can help?
Huge.
Is it like
enormous, right? Yeah. So, and that's what was great about these guys coming in. You know, Rick Dennison and JB and Clint.
You called them the experts last week.
Yeah. I mean, they know exactly what they want, and they like our guys. You know, and they're like, well, you know, that guy's not better than this guy. We want to work with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Mike has, you guys have heard him say before, like, that's the, you know, number one quality in a coach is like teaching and getting the best out of people and developing.
Yeah.
And so that's, it was very exciting that they were excited about our guys, you know, like, cause you can get your head, you know, like, you can kind of get like bury your head in the sand a little bit and not have outside opinions when you're just constantly like evaluating your guys all the time. You know, you have to like, got to think positive, man.
Yeah.
How often do you think you get your first round? When you do have a first round pick, you get the guy you've been talking about the whole time. I know trades and things happen, and it certainly shifts. But the narrative out there is that don't try to predict what the Seahawks are going to do. You never know where they're going to go with position wise. So I'm just curious, like, if you look at it now and you're saying we got 18, if this guy's there, that's our guy. How often does that happen that guy ends up being there?
Wow. I mean, last year stands out with Murph. I mean, we had him as the best defensive player in the draft.
So he was your guy going into the draft.
Yeah.
If he's there, that's our guy.
But I think that's very, very uncommon. Yeah, it's probably, you group it in like 2 or 3, and then you say, okay, well, and if all 3 of those guys are gone, or, you know, call it 4 maybe, whatever. If those guys are gone, then we need to get out because now the next level of player is very equivalent, so we might as well get another pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Uchenna, just tell him about you. You redid his deal, and
thank you to Uchenna
like,
for doing that and sticking with us. And
he seems like such a good man.
He's amazing.
And then I think Cooper Kupp got his number and did some donation to his foundation and everything. But just where he's at in his career and what you guys expect of him. Yeah,
he had the surgery right after the season, and doctors are excited, but it's going to be pretty close to his recovery. Like, what is he going to be a PUP player candidate, or is he going to be will he be out there without it, and we just ride it for a couple of weeks? It's way too early to tell. But what we know about Uchenna is like he's still a young man, but like I mean that guy's a dog. He's nasty. He's a leader. He's all about the work. He's awesome. He's great for the defense. I mean, it's gonna be pretty cool seeing his personality, Jay Reed's personality, Ernest's personality.
Got D-Law.
D-Law and
Mafe.
Mafe too, but D Hall and then Leo. Thank you. God dang. A lot of names running through my head right now, Dave.
Big Cat.
Yeah, Big Cat.
Yeah. Dave's over there rolling his eyes.
Like, be pretty fun, to see those guys' personality, and then Murph coming back, not being the rookie in the room.
Yeah.
Kind of like, all right, like he can let's get moving, like that. See his dog come out.
By the way, before we let you go, did you see that video of Ernest Jones giving the car to his mom?
My son just sent it to me. I haven't watched it yet.
It's really
Is
cool.
it pretty cool?
Yeah, and I'm sure you see that a lot, but it's got to make you feel good to see your guys. Setting up family, making dreams come true, and because you're kind of a part of it. So
no, it's a cool video. It is awesome. When you're talking about like generational wealth, talking to guys when they're in college, like getting their first contract, whatever. It's like, okay, it's not about this one, man. It's about the second one, and then if you can get a third, like what does that look like? I remember. Yeah, there's so many cool stories over the years, but that is really special. But like Aaron Rodgers, but I remember when he was a rookie, he bought his parents like this property, in their hometown, like up on this bluff, like and he brought him up there. He's actually sharing it with my wife. He's telling Tracy about it, and they got to this property, and he's like, yeah, and then they're all excited and super thankful, and then they're gonna retire there, and then he's like, yeah, and then this lot over here is for your best friends, and so he like bought both of them, like right on this cool bluff.
That's really
pretty
cool.
awesome.
That is cool.
That's awesome.
I love fun, positive stories to talk about.
Yeah. That's one. Watch that video. You'll
I can't wait.
You'll like it. John, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. That went fast.
Yeah. It was quick.
Go by quickly.
Have a great weekend.
We'll do it again next week.
Let's do it.